Well, tenses is the most scoring portion of all competitive exams. But अगर clear हो तब. So if you are someone जिसको अभी भी tenses से डर लगता है, then do not miss this session. क्योंकि ये session miss किया तो definitely regret होगा. Let us begin with the session. Welcome back to Fit the Lit, where we fit literature to its rightful standard. And today's session is a part of series 15-minute sprint to selection. Yes, it is just a 15-minute sprint to selection where we are going to learn tenses in just 15 minutes. And we are going to get exam ready in 15 minutes. Do not forget that. So let us begin without any further delay. By the way, I've already covered 4 topics in this particular series: subject verb agreement, clauses, types of sentences, and articles. If you have not watched those videos, spend 15 minutes and see the difference in your conceptual clarity. Without any further delay, let us begin with tenses. Let me just tell you a brief thing about tenses. That tenses as an overall topic, हमें rules ही रटा दिए जाते हैं एंड हम लोग एग्जाम के लिए रेडी हो जाते हैं, बट वी आर नॉट गोइंग टू टेक दैट पर्टिकुलर अप्रोच, क्योंकि दैट पर्टिकुलर अप्रोच इज गोइंग टू लीड टू फेलियर फॉर श्योर. तो हम लोग टेंस पढ़ेंगे बट वी विल फोकस मोर ऑन इट्स प्रैक्टिकल यूसेज, जैसा कि हमसे एग्जामिनेशन में पूछा जाता है. सो इट इज गोइंग टू बी एन एप्लीकेशन बेस्ड क्लास. मैं यहाँ पे आपको रूल्स नहीं पढ़ाने वाली हूँ, वो आपको इंटरनेट पे बहुत मिल जाएंगे. देयर आर लॉट्स ऑफ चार्ट्स व्हिच आर अवेलेबल, सो यू कैन सी योरसेल्फ कि रूल्स क्या होते हैं. आधे बच्चे ने तो रट भी लिए होंगे, तो यस, गुड फॉर यू. बट यहाँ पे हम यूसेज देखने वाले हैं, एप्लीकेशन, राइट? So let us start with the very basic question. What is a tense? Now, tense in any sentence actually identifies the time that we are talking about, right? So tenses shows the time of action. Definitely it shows the time of action. Usage matters more than the form in exams. This is the point that I was discussing earlier, कि हम लोग रूल्स तो हमें याद होने ही चाहिए, दैट इज लाइक एबीसीडी, जो कि हमें पता ही है, बट उसके अलावा जो एग्जाम से पूछे जाने वाला होता है वो होता है यूसेज, एंड दिस इज वेयर स्टूडेंट्स एंड एस्पिरेंट्स जनरली मेक मिस्टेक. सो आई एम गोइंग टू फोकस मोर ऑन द यूसेज एंड लेसर ऑन द रूल्स, बिकॉज रूल चार्ट, एज आई सेड, इज अवेलेबल वाइडली ऑन द इंटरनेट. जस्ट डाउनलोड वन, रट्टा मारो, खत्म करो, राइट? KVS and NVS tests, KVS and NVS examinations, they tend to test logic instead of the formation, instead of the structure, instead of the tables. So we are going to focus more on usage. Focus when and why a tense is used. So this is very important. This is what we are going to understand in this class. कि अगर हमने एक जगह पे सिंपल प्रेजेंट टेंस यूज किया है तो वो क्यों किया है. एक जगह पे अगर हम लोगों ने पास्ट परफेक्ट या हम लोगों ने एक जगह प्रेजेंट परफेक्ट यूज किया है तो वो क्यों किया. दैट इज व्हाट वी आर गोइंग टू अंडरस्टैंड. लेट मी गिव यू अ रियलिटी चेक that in most of the examinations, all the tenses, there are 12 subcategories. How many? There are 12 subcategories, we all know. But 12 की 12 important नहीं है examination के लिए. So we are going to focus on the 5 tenses that are important for from examination point of view, right? So simple present, simple past, present perfect, past perfect, and future. These are the tenses which are going to be really important for from your examination point of view, because यही से examiner question उठाता है. Generally, if you analyze the papers of the previous years also, ज़्यादातर past perfect, present perfect, simple present, simple past, इन्हीं से questions आते हैं. So rather we should focus our attention on these 4 or 5 tenses. In this particular class, we are actually going to cover these 4 tenses, right? And let me tell you, 99%, I am telling you, 99% of your tenses questions will be framed out of all these 4 tenses. Mark my words, 99%. So it is a huge percentile, huge volume that we are going to cover in just 15 minutes, right? So let us begin with simple present tense. Now, simple present tense is used to refer to actions that are done on daily basis or as a part of our routine, right? Or some permanent facts or universal truths. For example, a universal truth could be this: the sun rises in the east. ये तो typical sentence है, आपको कहीं पे भी मिल जाएगा, right? And look at this pointer: habits and routines. For example, if I ask you to narrate your routine, that what do you do on daily basis? So what will you say? I wake up in the morning and then I take a bath, I brush my teeth, etc., etc., right? So all these lines that I just spoke, that you just heard, they were made in simple present tense. Why? Because I was talking about my routine thing. That is why habits and routines, we need to use simple present tense. Then permanent facts. For example, the water. Permanent facts यानी कि यहाँ पे scientific facts की हम लोग बात कर रहे हैं. For example, the water boils at 100 degrees Celsius, right? This is a scientific fact. तो हम लोग इन तीन चीजों को रेफर करने के लिए we use simple present tense. Now simple present tense, although I have already told you that I'm not talking about the rules here, but मैं आपको simple सा एक rule दे देती हूँ, and that is if it is a singular subject, then of course you have subject plus verbs first form plus s or es and plus object, right? And for plural one, it is going to be subject plus verbs first form plus object. So this is the rule that you might have come across, and this is the rule that you should learn for your examination purposes, right? So this is done simple present tense. हम लोगों ने बहुत जल्दी मतलब मेरे को लगता है कि शायद 3 मिनट में ही हमने एक टेंस कवर कर लिया, बट इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि हमारा वो खत्म हो गया काम, बिकॉज नाउ टुवर्ड्स द एंड ऑफ द सेशन आई एम गोइंग टू कम टू द एग्जैक्ट क्वेश्चंस, एग्जैक्ट कॉन्सेप्चुअल क्वेश्चंस जो कि केवीएस और एनवीएस के पेपर में उठाए जाते हैं, राइट? सो बेयर विद मी फॉर 15 मिनट्स एंड आई एम टेलिंग यू दिस सेशन इज गोइंग टू बी वर्थ इट. Simple past tense. Now simple past tense is referred to, अब मैं एक एक वर्ड जो बोल रही हूँ you need to mark it, because अभी MCQs आएंगे and you will get confused. I don't want you to get confused. I will be laying out a lot of traps for you. लेकिन अभी मैं जो समझा रही हूँ उसके लिए अगर आपने वो समझ लिया ढंग से, definitely वो traps भी आप समझ जाएंगे फिर, right? Simple past tense, and what is the usage? Simple past tense is used to refer to the past time, right? जो हमारा हमने पास्ट टाइम में एक्शन किया है उसको हम रेफर करते हैं, वी यूजिंग सिंपल पास्ट टेंस. बट हियर लुक एट दिस टर्म, कंप्लीटेड एक्शन इन द पास्ट. मैं क्या बोल रही हूं? इट द एक्शन हैज बीन कंप्लीटेड. डेफिनेट टाइम मेंशन्ड और इंप्लाइड. अब ये एक ट्रिकी चीज है. डेफिनेट टाइम हैज बीन मेंशन्ड यानी कि we will use simple past tense only when definite time is mentioned or it is implied, right? For example, look at these examples. He left the city last year. Again, definite time. She wrote the exam yesterday. Again, definite time is given. Time reference होना बहुत जरूरी है. किस tense में? Simple past tense में. Etch it in your brain, अच्छे से घुसा लो दिमाग में कि simple past tense में you need to have time reference, right? Time reference is the key. That is what I said. Then let us come to the next one, the next tense, that is present perfect tense. Now present perfect tense also refers to the actions that are completed in the past, for past actions with present result. यानी कि जो एक्शंस हमारे अभी प्रेजेंट पे इफेक्ट डाल रहे हैं या फिर उसको इन्फ्लुएंस कर रहे हैं, in those cases we are going to use present perfect tense. जो कि हमारे एक्शंस पास्ट में कंप्लीट हो चुके हैं but they are still relevant in the present time, right? The second pointer, when time is not mentioned. Now this is where the candidates actually get confused कि where to use present perfect tense and where to use simple past tense. अब होना ही नहीं चाहिए वो confusion, क्योंकि मैंने बता दिया कि present perfect tense में the time is not mentioned, the definite time is not mentioned. तो उसमें बोला होगा now, then, before, after, like this. But simple past tense में हमने क्या देखा कि definite time was mentioned, right? So of course the terms that you can see with present perfect tense is this: just, already, yet, ever, never, right? I have completed the work. अब यहाँ पे there was no time reference. Is there any time reference in the sentence? No, there's no time reference, right? But there was time reference in simple past tense. Look at the second sentence also. She has never visited Delhi. Now again, यहाँ पे भी हमारा there is no time reference as such. So what are the terms? These are the terms. And do we need time reference? No. Where time reference can be there, for example, just now, then, before, after, like that. Do not use with definite past time, because for definite past time, which tend to be used? Simple past tense. Am I clear with the fact? Now, if you talk about the rules, of course, the rule is going to be subject plus has, have, plus verb's third form plus object, right? Now, has is going to be used with singular and have is going to be used with plural subjects, right? And simple past, the rule was pretty easy. It was the subject plus verb's second form plus object. That is it, right? So these are the rules and these are the usages. But I would again advise you to focus more on the usage, because the questions that will be framed in your paper, they are going to be usage based, right? Let us come to past perfect tense now. This is the last tense that we are going to cover in this particular session. Past perfect tense is used to refer to the earlier of the two past actions. यानी कि understandably, when we are using past perfect tense, we have two events in hand. कितने events हैं हमारे? दो events हैं, right? And जब हमें sequence बताना है उन दो events का कि एक के बाद दूसरा हुआ या एक से पहले दूसरा हुआ, then we use past perfect tense. So of course, inevitably, we are going to have how many events? Event 1 and event 2. So event 2 के लिए हम लोग event 1 के लिए हम लोग use करते हैं past perfect tense. And of course, what are the conjunctions? Before, after, and also sometimes we use when. Look at this particular example. यहाँ पे भी आपको दो events definitely दिख जाएंगे. The train had left before we reached the station. तो यानी कि दो event हुए यहाँ पे. Timing देखो किसकी, पहले किसकी timing है? Of course इसकी. तो यहाँ पे event 1 में हमारा क्या लगा? Past perfect tense. But यहाँ पे before we reached the station, यहाँ पे क्या लगा? Simple past tense. Right? So this is what we need to understand and learn and make note of it, that whenever you use past perfect tense, we are going to have event 1 जहाँ पे हमारा past perfect tense use हुआ है, and event 2 जहाँ पे कि हमारा simple past tense use हुआ है. Then of course, earlier action will take up past perfect tense and the later action will take simple past tense, right? I hope I'm clear with everything now. I hope I have clarified the things for you, the usages for you. Let us move forward, क्योंकि अब जो पार्ट आने वाला है, that is going to make you exam ready. ये तो बच्चों वाला था अभी तक, ये तो मैंने नॉर्मल सा रेपिटेशन कर दिया आपके अंडरस्टैंडिंग के लिए, but the part that is going to be relevant for your examination, अब वो आएगा, because now we are going to compare tenses. We are going to see that where do we need to use which tense, right? So the very first one is simple past versus present perfect. Now simple past, I had told you, first of all दो condition होनी चाहिए हमारी, right? Simple past में हमारा क्या होना चाहिए? Completed action in the past plus time reference should be there. But present perfect में there is no time reference, no definite time reference, and also the action that has been completed in the past should be relevant to the present. ये हमारी condition थी, right? So now look at these sentences. I have met him yesterday. Now tell me, I have met him yesterday. यहाँ पे first of all क्या दे रखा है? एक तो time reference दे रखा है. इसी से पकड़ लेना चाहिए कि यहाँ पे क्या होना चाहिए था? Simple past होना चाहिए था. So of course ये sentence ही गलत है. ये ऊपर वाला, this one is wrong. So what should be the correct tense? Simple past should be used here, because definite time reference is given. Now let me tell you, a lot of candidates find this really confusing. In fact, examiners को भी, कि यहाँ पे क्यों हमारा present perfect नहीं आया, simple past ही आया, just because of the time reference, no other reason, right? She has finished the work last night. Now she has finished the work last night, यानी कि again complete action and also time reference, but specific time reference. So of course यहाँ पे भी हमारा क्या आना चाहिए था? Simple past. It should have been simple past. तो यहाँ पे present perfect नहीं आना था, right? Now look at this particular slide, and these sentences are actually in past perfect tense, but they form the most common exam traps that the examiner can set for you, right? After he had finished his work, he went home. Now think here and try to apply some logic. After he had finished his work, he went home. क्या यहाँ पे लॉजिक क्लियर नहीं है? भाई काम खत्म करके ही तो इंसान घर जाएगा, isn't it? So of course the logic was very clear. तो यहाँ पे जो past perfect tense है वो नहीं आना चाहिए था. तो यहाँ पे क्या आना चाहिए था? After he finished his work, he went home. So this is called redundancy error. Redundancy error मतलब redundant हो गया. यहाँ पे जरूरत नहीं थी past perfect tense की, but still past perfect tense has been applied. So this is again a very common error that we generally do. So now look at the second sentence. In the first one, the sequence or the logic of events was very clear. But here in the second one, it is not that clear. And therefore, we need to use past perfect tense. And where do we apply past perfect tense? Event 1 में, जो पहले हुआ, right? Then past perfect tense only when sequence is unclear. So this should become your rule in hand, that we use past perfect tense only when the sequence is not clear, when sequence is not understandable, right? तब तो हम past perfect tense use करेंगे. Otherwise, we are going to use simple past tense, just like we did in the first one, right? Let us move forward to more common exam traps that we have from these 4 tenses. कौन से हमने 4 tenses करे हैं? Simple present tense, simple past tense, past perfect tense and present perfect tense, right? Look at the simple present tense. She is knowing the answer. Now, this particular statement, she is knowing the answer. Know is a stative verb. Stative verb कौन से होते हैं? जो कि हमें condition बताते हैं किसी चीज की. I'll explain it in detail. Just bear with me for once. So, she is knowing the answer. So know is actually a stative verb. अभी बस इतना समझ लो कि stative verb है, तो इसकी ing forms नहीं होती, right? ये simple present tense में ही यूज होते हैं. Whenever you have a stative verb, तो वो simple present tense में यूज होते हैं, ing form में नहीं यूज होते, right? तो यहाँ पे क्या होना चाहिए था? She knows the answer. I am understanding the rule. Now I am understanding the rule क्या होता है? कि मैं अभी समझ रहा हूं, बट ऐसा तो नहीं है. I understand the rule. मैं रूल समझता हूं, right? Again, so what do we need to remember? That stative verbs never use their ing forms. ऐसा ये जो ing यहाँ पे है या फिर ये है, ये गलत फॉर्म है. तो हम लोग इस पर्टिकुलर वर्ब्स के लिए क्या यूज करते हैं? सिंपल प्रेजेंट टेंस. नाउ लेट मी एक्सप्लेन व्हाट आर स्टेटिव वर्ब्स. So what are stative verbs? Stative verbs are different from the common action words in the sense कि वो action नहीं describe करते हैं, rather they describe a state. For example, अगर मैं बोलूँ simple, I am. What is am? What is am here? Stative verb है कि I am, I exist, right? Then I know. Again, know कोई action नहीं होता, right? But here it is describing a state, a thought, right? So whenever you have verbs like these, जो कि हमें action नहीं बता रहे हैं, rather they are describing some state, condition, feeling, thought, or some possession. तो ये हमारे कौन से होते हैं? Stative verbs, and they are always used in simple present tense. So for example, again I'm going to give you one more example. I have a car, right? तो ये have क्या है यहाँ पे? यहाँ पे have is actually a stative verb, possession, right? So let us move forward and let us try to revisit the things that we have learned in this particular class. Let us briefly recap whatever we have learned. So what are the things that we have learned? Whenever you are referring to some habit or fact, at that time you use simple present tense. Whenever you are referring to a finished past action, then you need to use simple past tense. And of course, we need what? Time reference. That is very important. Then you have past action with present result and no definite time. Then you use present perfect tense. एंड अर्लियर पास्ट एक्शन के लिए हम लोग क्या यूज करेंगे, पास्ट परफेक्ट टेंस. आई होप I have made tenses a lot more easier for all of you to understand. At least these 4 tenses should be clear enough because अब तो कोई इसमें डाउट होना ही नहीं चाहिए, राइट? हम लोगों ने 15 मिनट में ये 4 टेंसेस खत्म करके we have actually covered 99% of the questions that may appear in the examination. Okay, let us move forward. So here's fit the lit pro tip for today. Tense is not about time alone. It is all about the meaning. So you need to understand the time reference. Your time reference है तो वो कैसा time reference है, and accordingly you need to use the tense, right? So this brings us to the end of the session where we tried to cover tenses, the 4 major tenses that are going to be really useful from your examination point of view. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, share the video with your friends and subscribe to my channel Fit the Lit, where we fit literature to its rightful standard and we always try to remain lit.